Hello, everybody. All right, today we have something I happen to love this. I use it all the time. So very excited to have Merrick Rosenberg on, which we're going to introduce in a second. But what we're going to talk about today is something that I use constantly in my life, and not only in work, in my general life. It informs the way I relate to people and how I can best relate to people and talk to them in the way that works for them. And this whole concept is just so great. So I'm glad that you're here because it's going to be awesome. You're going to learn a lot on this one. So firstly, I want to start with who we are. We're RCS. And to introduce that, I'm going to bring on our CEO, Jeff Tabelli. And as I mentioned, Jeff, he's going to introduce the rest. Merrick's going to be on also. So Jeff, go talk
Hey,
to
Norm.
us. Hey.
What's happening? I'm excited about this one.
Yeah.
I hope you are too.
Oh, so if you haven't spent any time with either Jeff or I in the past, Jeff is the one probably who brought this into our company, and he's all about it. So without further ado, go, Jeff.
Sure. So I'm Jeffrey Tabelli, the CEO of RCS Professional Services. We are an IT service provider with offices in Atlanta, Georgia, and New York City. And we've been around for over 20 years now, providing businesses with IT, anything and everything IT. What does that have to do with what we're talking about today? Maybe not so much, but at the end of the day, we're an organization of people. People's our big differentiator, I would say, service and everything in and around it. So this was a game changer for me in my life personally, for our business. And I'm really excited to talk about it today and share whatever it is that we've, implemented / learned / realized, and it's all great stuff. So I ran into DISC from a consultant that we had a while back. I got very into it, and I searched for a book, and I found Merrick's book on Amazon. And it's just awesome. Every time I meet someone, I send them this book, and I'm like, you have to read this. It changed my life. So
right. How many people do you think you've told about this?
I tell everyone about it. Family, business, friends, associates, strangers, anyone and everything.
I've told so many people about it.
But it's more fun when I just send them the book and I'm like, you have to read this. Half the people do, half the people don't. But the ones that do, get really into it.
Hey, Lou, how's it going out there? Lou, jumping on early. And Joseph. Yeah, Joseph, newest guy at the RCS team. Yes, Joseph Martinez. And hey, Robert, how's it going? Robert Arthur, key at one of our clients.
Yeah. I hope you read the book, Robert. Anyway, we have the renowned and esteemed Merrick Rosenberg, who is author of that book and many other books around DISC. So take it away.
Thank you guys, Jeffrey and Norman. You guys have shared the birds with the world, so I deeply appreciate that. So we're going to have some fun today. I know you know the styles, but it's time to share them with everyone who is tuning in. And our goal for the day is to share these 4 styles with you and make it simple, make it easy, make it so that you can remember it and apply it everywhere you go. I think as Jeffrey and Norman will concur that once you learn this, you start seeing it everywhere. You will go to a restaurant, you will be at home, you'll meet family and friends, and you're going to see the styles playing out. So we're going to have fun with that and get a sense of how do you use this, not just what are the styles, because everybody's learned some type of styles tool or model before. The big question is, how do you apply it? How do you use it everywhere? So here's what we've got. We've got 4 styles. I link them to 4 birds. I like to make it easy. So let's do it. Let's make it simple and applicable so that everybody can understand it. So I'm going to start us off. And my first style that we're going to hit on
I just want to jump in here and say, Merrick keeps saying it's simple and easy, and that's really the beauty of what he's created here. It's so simple and easy to understand. You can explain it well, you can understand it well, and once you get all that, well, you're going to see the world in a different way. So, sorry, back to you, Merrick. Yeah, and there's a question already from Lou Klein. What's the book name? Which I'm sure you're going to get to.
There's a couple books. You can pick up The Chameleon. You can pick up Taking Flight. The Chameleon is kind of a series of little short fables. I think of it as I wrote like a whole season of a sitcom about the birds, with each fable being a different episode, 22 of them. Or Taking Flight is like a movie, one long fable that teaches you the birds. See them in action. So let's bring all of our viewers into the conversation. When you think of an eagle, you can throw this into the chat. What traits or characteristics, positive traits or characteristics, do you think of if someone had the traits of an eagle? What do you think they would be like? So what do you think? Someone's an eagle? Throw them in there. Let's capture some thoughts here. If somebody has the style of an eagle,
ambitious,
what do you think they are like? We'll put it into the comments.
Okay, so you were asking us. Sorry.
Once again, positive traits. We'll go with the positive.
I got killed over here.
Yes, bold and brave. Okay, absolutely. These are the folks who take charge. They're assertive. They're direct. You can probably guess they're pretty confident.
Take charge, Suzette. Absolutely. Assertive, dominant. Yeah, these are great comments we're getting here.
Right. They're going to go for it. They're going to make things happen. They take charge. If you're that eagle, you're probably a risk taker. You're flying at 10,000 feet. You're seeing things strategically. You're visionary. You're not caught up in the details. It could be aggressive, but I would go with assertive. Definitely stand in their power to ask for what they want and do what they need to do to get the results that they are trying to achieve. So good. Notice what's happening though, and Jeffrey and Norman, I know you get this, is the styles are intuitive. You don't have to memorize letters that just don't have any meaning. So let's do another one. Next up, we've got the parrot. So when you think of somebody who has the traits of a parrot, what comes to mind for the parrot style? Let's see what you got. So what do you think? Quiet and shy? Probably not, right? For the parrot, they are definitely talkative. They are outgoing. What do you think, Jeffrey and Norman? Do you think optimistic, or do you think they're more realistic and maybe even pessimistic? Where would you put them?
Optimistic.
Optimistic. No, everything for the parrot, it always works out. It's all good.
Talkative, curious. Susan, great one, curious.
Curious, talkative, loud, that can be definitely true. Communicative, absolutely. If you had a group of parrots, they will not win the quiet game. They are absolutely going to be talking all the time. And they're very social. They like to be with others. So, and free thinkers, extroverts, are creative. All right, let's try another one.
Hector, extrovert, exactly.
Absolutely, extroverted for sure. Fun seeker, definitely. So next up, we've got doves. Doves have a very different energy. While a parrot has this very big energy, dove, we calm down. What's playing out for the dove? If you think of the dove style from a personality perspective, what kind of traits or characteristics do you think they have? First of all, I'll check in with both of you. Do you think they're good listeners?
Yes,
for sure.
Absolutely. And they pick up on emotion. They are the peacemaker. They just want everyone to get along. They're smoothing things out. They seek harmony. They're calm. They're careful. They can be emotional and empathetic. They are tuning into your emotional state. Soft-spoken, harmonious. These are all great words.
Gentle and loving.
Nurturing. Yeah, notice what I love about this. Supportive, comforting.
Thanks.
That how intuitive it is that you don't have to memorize. These are the traits of the dove. You just get it. And if it's intuitive today, it'll be an intuitive sense for you 5 years from now. All right, so let's do another one. I love it. You're totally nailing it. Let's talk about the owl. So personality traits of an owl, when you think of the owl style, very different from the parrots, very different from eagles and doves. What do you think? We'll start off with both of you. Speed or quality? Where do you think the owl is going to land on that continuum?
Quality.
Absolutely. Okay. And in fact, you can help me out. If you were an owl and I said to you, if we're going to do it, then what? How would you finish that sentence?
Oh, you nailed it on the head. That's one of our core values. Do it right.
Yeah, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And we're going to do it right the first time.
Hector, analytical, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Detail-oriented thinker, problem solver,
Sandra, exactly.
Diplomatic. Notice how you get it. And the beauty of the styles is that once you know the styles, it's like you've shined a light on them and you start seeing them everywhere. And so for the owl, very deliberate, data-driven, accuracy, quality. And so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take these and we'll go a little deeper. Now, nobody is just one of them. You're not just a parrot or an eagle, a dove or an owl. My style, I am I'm the parrot with a secondary eagle. That's my main style. So Jeffrey, what is yours?
I am an owl and a secondary dove.
Owl and secondary dove. And I know, Norman, you've got yours there, so you know what you are. You are the parrot. Awesome.
And a secondary eagle.
And a secondary eagle. All right. So you're kind of like me, parrot eagle. Awesome. So we're not just one. We're a combination of all of them. But there's probably one or two which are like home base for you. You can display any behavior, but there's probably one or two that are easy. And there may be others that take some energy. You can do it. But if you had to, like for me, if I had to live in owl mode all day, could I do it? Sure. But I would be exhausted. I would go home and I would just be like, okay, that's it for me. So if I was in IT, if I were like writing code all day, this would not be a good day for a parrot. So let's go a little bit deeper. And, let's talk leadership for a moment. And here's one of the challenges that leaders tend to create an environment, we all do this, in which we will thrive, as opposed to an environment in which others will thrive. So check out this picture. If this was your culture, this is happening on a regular basis. This is probably not an owl culture. This is probably a land of parrots, okay? I mean, there's probably a lot of parrots in that environment. And so imagine if you are the parrot and you create a culture that is very free-flowing. Here's your goals. I believe in you. Make it happen. How do your owls feel in that world? What do you think? Like,
if you want to run away.
Yeah, because they need structure. They need
right. It's driving them nuts. They need more information. They got to ask questions, get those questions answered.
Exactly.
They need more.
Yeah. And now imagine you create an eagle culture because you think that's what I like. That's what they'll like. And you create a very eagle culture that is direct. It's results driven. It's not touchy feely. It's not about tuning into the emotions of others. It's about get it done fast. How do you think doves are feeling in that culture?
Miserable.
Stress.
Why does he talk to me like that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God.
So what happens is we tend to create this world around us that really works for us. But whether we're talking about leaders creating culture for your people, a salesperson trying to sell, and are you selling in your style or are you selling in theirs? It could just be talking to your coworkers or a spouse or your kids. How are you communicating to the people around you? And it's probably in your style. So that'll be one of the themes we hit on a little bit later. But notice we tend to create an environment for us. What if we created an environment that the people around us would thrive in? And so that's kind of one of our core underlying principles. And I'll give you another one here because this one's a big one. It's don't impose your style on others. We have this belief that everybody likes what we like and they need what we need. It's why we create an environment for us. But we also tend to treat people the way we would want to be treated, as opposed to thinking, okay, what do they need? What would they want? Because everybody's not a replica of us. They're different. They have different needs, especially from a style perspective. And look, you've got, Hector, as you said, you've got to know your audience. And so if you know your audience, then you have style flexibility and you can adapt and you don't just impose your style on others. I had this one person that came up to me. I was speaking at an event and she said to me, she was a parrot, and I loved what she said. She said, earlier in my career, I thought everyone is an extrovert at heart. You just needed to pull it out of them. If you could just Bring it out of them. Well, everyone's an extrovert. And she was sharing the story of how she was having an event with her company, and this person who, by the way, and she said, now that I'm looking back, I think they were like an owl, dove owl. These were both strong, which are more reserved styles. And she said, so we were having this big event, and this individual had done such a great job, and I wanted to celebrate them. And I know she's an introvert, but you know what? Deep down, everybody loves the spotlight. Everybody wants to be brought up in front of the group. We'll talk about them. So she goes around with her iPhone and she assembles a little video of little snippets of everybody talking about this person, celebrating this person, brought the individual up on stage. So now everybody gets to watch her reaction to the video of everyone talking about her. How do you think this went over for a dove owl?
Terrified.
She was basically like, don't ever do that again. And here you've got this parrot who's thinking, hey, you did a great job. I'm trying to celebrate you. Get out there, and you're awesome, and we love what you do, and we're gonna cheer you on. And what ended up happening was she ended up embarrassing that individual, because we impose our style on others and we don't even realize that we're doing it, because we think if I like it, they'll like it. And look, you both known the styles for a while. It's pretty easy to do that, isn't it? To just kind of go along in our own mode and impose our style on the people around us.
For sure.
Right. So I thought we'd have a little fun trying to get to know the styles in maybe a deeper way. And I thought we'd have fun with it. Every now and then I watch and I see people wearing some T-shirts and I think that's an eagle shirt, or that is clearly a parrot shirt. So I thought we'd make up some of our own. But I thought we would call this shirts they would wear and shirts they wouldn't. Okay. So let's have some fun. We'll look at some of the shirts, for example, an eagle might wear versus a shirt an eagle maybe wouldn't wear. So I had this, I was writing a book about how the styles play out with presidents of the United States. And it's called Personality Wins. And I remembered at one point, I was studying and I was reading through about all the presidents, and I got to Lyndon Johnson, right? And LBJ was a super, super strong eagle. And he had this tendency, he just, as an eagle, do you think he wanted long-winded explanations with a tremendous amount of detail and charts and graphs? No way.
No.
So people are coming to his office about major events, literally about what is happening in Vietnam. And he would take out an alarm clock, set it for 5 minutes and say, go. That's it. And when the alarm rang, you're out. I mean, this is an eagle. And the shirt an eagle might wear, be brief, be brilliant, be gone. And that is it. And think about the power of understanding that. Let's say you're a salesperson. You're selling an eagle. If you walk in, you're an owl, and you get into all of the detail and all of the features and all of the benefits, and you explain in 4-part harmony everything that they need to know with charts and graphs and PowerPoints, what is going on. So for an eagle, what do you think?
You lost them way long
60
ago.
seconds in, yeah.
They're gone.
Long ago, you lost that person.
They're just gone. And so for the eagle, be brief, get to the point, be insightful, and then you're out. And think about the power of that. If you can read somebody fast, you can sell them fast. I thought, to be fair, we would have a shirt that an eagle might not wear. Let's talk about the feelings.
No way.
Probably not a shirt for eagles. I'm just guessing. So let's shift to parrot. I had this funny moment. Now, I am the parrot style. My wife happens to be an owl. And I had this moment. I was walking through and I was in Dublin. I was speaking at a conference there, and I had some little extra time, and my wife joined me, and we were walking through the streets of Dublin, which, by the way, is land of parrots. I mean, there's a tremendous amount of parrots in Ireland. That is, statistically, there are more parrots in Ireland than any other style. Different countries have different predominant styles. That's actually true.
Must be the redheads.
Go into an Irish club, you know what I'm talking about. So I'm walking along, and this person had a shirt on, which I'll show it to you in just a moment. And I'd read the shirt, and I laughed out loud. And my wife looks at me, she's an owl, and she said, what's so funny? And I said, oh, did you see the shirt? And she said, no, what did it say? And I read it to her, and it said, bad decisions make great stories. And she looks at me as an owl and says, not always. And I thought, that is an owl response, because for the parrot, they're risk takers. They're optimistic, they're adventurous, and combine optimism and a sense of adventure together. And what could happen? And even if something happens, it'll make a good story. And so think about, for the parrot, they're willing to try things, do things, because what could happen? What's the worst thing? And even say that. You'll hear parrots say that. What's the worst thing that can happen? And then you have an owl on your team, or perhaps married you, and they say, I'll tell you what can happen. I've seen this before. They can go from like 0 to worst case scenario in 2.3 seconds. Like, death will happen.
Yeah.
So shirts perhaps and a parrot may not wear. Spreadsheets are my meditation. I actually had an owl say this to me, and one of the parrots, it was in a session, and one of the parrots in the room said, what does that even mean? I don't even know what that means. I had a funny moment just the other day. One of my team members, she has been thinking about, she has one dog, she's really wanted another dog. She's been hoping to get one for a while, but her husband, not quite on board. So her owl child, to convince her father what the benefits are of getting a dog, made a PowerPoint presentation with all the pluses and minuses, literally made a PowerPoint presentation for her father. And she's 10 years old.
Nice.
There you
Starts
have it.
early.
It starts early.
Owl.
We see the styles when they're little. It's absolutely true. So let's talk about the doves for a moment. Whoops, gone the wrong way. Let's talk about doves. Shirt a dove might wear. Now look, doves have this sense of kindness. They just want people to get along. In a world where you can be anything, be kind. I mean, it's not a dove statement, right? But doves, when people aren't kind, it can, it offends them, it bothers them. I once saw this very, very funny. This actually happened to me. In fact, it just happened to me the other day. It'll be posted on LinkedIn very shortly because I have to share this. It was a funny moment where I'm in my neighborhood. I know a lot of people, and I'm a parrot. I know a lot of people in my neighborhood. And especially if you're a dog walker, right? You kind of get to meet everybody in your neighborhood. And so I'm watching, I pull up to this intersection in my neighborhood, and I see there was a car and there was a walker, and the walker had a dog. And I know they're both doves, and they both got there, kind of at the same moment. It was pretty close. And the person in the car gestures, after you. The person who's walking the dog says, no, after you. The person in the car goes, no, after you. They both sat there for several seconds, and then both started going at the same time. At which point, they both stopped and started the game of you go, you go, all over again. Like, this is the doves in action, right? I just want to be nice. It's okay. I want to be helpful. I want to be caring. I want to be kind. Shirts you would probably not see a dove wear. Maybe you're the problem. For the dove, it's if there's a problem, if something goes wrong, it's my fault. They apologize for everything. I had a coworker once who I was talking to her, and I used to always tell her, I'm like, you don't have to apologize all the time. Most of the time when she is apologizing, it's not even her fault. And I'm talking to her. She turns around as I was talking with her, and she turned around, somebody had come by, and she bangs into the door and apologized to the door. She turns and she looks at me and she goes, did I just apologize to a door? And I'm like, yeah. Right? This is the dove in action. It's all about kindness. It's all about caring. I think see, this is the dove version in a world where you can be kind, be anything. I think if an eagle wrote that shirt, it would probably be, mean people suck, right? It would not be said so gently, right? Yeah. So let's talk about owls for a moment. From an owl perspective, the magic is in the details, right?
It's not the devil, it's the magic.
Oh yeah, it's not the devil, it's the details. The magic is in the details. I had this moment where, I'm planning a vacation, and you can probably guess I'm a parrot. My wife is an owl. Who plans the vacation? You could probably guess. One of us tends to be more spontaneous. One of us tends to be more planned. Um, and I had this funny moment though, where look, my wife is very detail oriented, and I deeply appreciate it, but not as spontaneous. And I had this moment once where I came home, and if you've ever read, if you read my book, The Chameleon, I'll give away one of the fables. It's called Spontaneity Day. And I came home once and I was on a business trip, and as a parrot, I always like to find something fun, something spontaneous, something new and different to do. So I went out and I was doing this fun thing, and I texted pictures back to my wife. And when I got home, she said, "You know what? I love how you live your life. It's so spontaneous. You just go for it. I have decided I'm going to add more spontaneity to my life, and I have a plan." And I thought, "Do you hear what you're saying?" And she said she actually did this. She had decided she was going to make every Tuesday Spontaneity Day, and she did it for a full year. And I will tell you, like, she would cook something she's never cooked. She would read from an article from a newspaper she's never read before. She would go somewhere she's never done and she's never been. And it was amazing. By the end of the year, I actually think she was more spontaneous. Like, she had developed that muscle. But it was pretty funny that she had planned spontaneity. Shirts you might not hear an owl wear. Just wing it. We'll just show up. This is my vacation strategy. We go there and we figure it out. Right. We find things. We'll always find things. It'll just happen. This is probably not the strategy for an owl.
I don't think so.
They got to have it planned. Right. Especially, look, in your world, Jeffrey and Norman, in the IT world, is there winging it? I mean, let's be real.
There's no winging it, but I mean, like, one of the things that I've benefited from this whole thing is, like, you mentioned it, like, if you're going to do it right. If you go to our website, rcsprofessional.com, one of the core values there and about us is do it right. And I spent probably the first 10 years of our business existence, like, making sure it was like an engineering kind of culture, whatever. And then, you know, I got these eagle owls, Esther and Tim, and, like, the whole business changed once I, like, realized who I was and stepped back. So yeah, we have that engineering culture in our, like, origination, but it's so much better when you have a little bit of everything and you're spreading the responsibilities around.
Yeah, and each personality type is good for a certain function or functions. So you can't have a group of owls. You can't have of owls. You can't have a company of parrots. You can't have a company of eagles. You can't have a company of doves. Everybody's like, you need all of them in a business.
Yeah, and picture if you did have an entire organization of all parrots. Look, morale would be high. That's true. Time management might be an issue. Or if you had a group of all eagles, it's like too many chiefs. It's too many people taking charge. Probably be very visionary, strategic, but they might miss some of the details. If you had a group of all owls, okay, that'd be great. Things would be done right. You'd have a process and a plan.
But just take 100 years.
But it might take a while. Right. Yeah. But when it's done, I said that once to a group, and I said, look, if you had a group of all owls, might take a while, but when it's done, and then one of the eagles jumped in and said, it would be too late. So there you have it. Group of all doves, look, there'd be harmony, collaboration, but maybe not radical change. So every style brings something. And there is a danger if we just hire in our own image. A lot of people do that. I once worked with a CEO, and we ran these assessments for his team. And he said to me, he goes, look at this. The entire team, everybody has the same graph as me. This is crazy. And I'm like, did you hire them? And he goes, I did. I'm like, congratulations. You hired a whole group of yourself in your image. But Jeffrey, as you said, look, when you have that diversity of thought, it's powerful. Each person brings something different to the team. So
yeah.
So let's take it. Let's go a little deeper here. And underlying this is one of my books is called The Chameleon, and I love that notion of being the chameleon. And the chameleon is just all about being flexible, being adaptable. It's not just imposing your style on others. It's saying, all right, what style is needed in this moment for this situation or this person or these people? And I'll give you an example of this. I had done it was a radio interview for Sirius XM, and the host was the host on their business channel. They have a show for real estate agents or people in the, whether it's commercial home buying, but it's about helping agents. How do you sell? How do you communicate to your customer? And I taught the host of the show, it's like a half-hour show, and I taught her the birds within a minute and a half. And after that, just like for you, you already get it. She's using the birds like she's known them forever. And she, at one point, she turns to me and goes, all right, I've got to ask you a question. She goes, you get good at this. And I'm going to show you how to read people in just a moment. You get good at this. You learn how to read people's styles. But you walk a couple into a home, and one of them's an eagle, one of them's a dove. Now what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to sell both of them? And I said, look, I'm not a real estate agent. I've never sold a house as an agent. But look, I have bought a house. I've actually sold a house. But I don't know that world. But because I know the styles, I know how to talk to them. And so without missing a beat, I said, look, you got an eagle, you got a dove. How does this resonate with you? And I said, you walk the couple into the house and you say, all right, bottom line, here's how much the house costs. Here's square footage. Here's property. Here's taxes, number of bedrooms, number of bathrooms. Boom. Let me tell you, what a wonderful place to raise a family. Did you see the park on your way in? Kids playing all the time. There's always kids in that cul-de-sac right down the street. What a great place to raise your kids. What did I do? Here's the thing, by the way. I'm a parrot. If I walked into that house and was like, you are going to love it. It's going to be amazing. I can't even wait to tell you and show you this house. It's incredible. Who am I selling?
No one.
Right?
Sell yourself.
Nobody. Me. I'm selling me, but that's it. I'm not selling them. But if I can flex and adapt, I can talk to anyone. And this is the power of what we're talking about here. It's not just about, okay, let's learn these 4 styles. And it's not just about increasing our own self-awareness and what are we doing, but it's also about relating to others and connecting with the people in our lives. Because if you can read people quickly, you can adapt to them. And you also get a deeper sense of what are they saying? What are they really communicating? I mean, have you you've both known the styles for a while. Have you seen the styles in action? Can you watch it, see it? Can you observe it playing out?
Yeah. We were just on a sales call, Esther and I, and we were talking, and the guy was just like nonstop, going on about barbecuing and food and New York and LA. Like, we didn't even talk about the job. Like, so then all I did was kept talking about food, and he's like, okay, great. We'll do this tomorrow. It was done.
Right. Years and years ago, this was when I first started the company. We had a salesperson. He was like off the scale parrot. I mean, not like little parrot, but like big parrot. And we would somehow, and our customers at the time, it was a lot of parrots. I would go on a sales call with them. We would talk about what felt like nothing. And then 10 minutes left, he'd get into what we do and they'd say, all right, let's do it. I'm like, how did that happen? I don't even know what just happened. I didn't really know the styles right at the beginning of my organization. This was like 1991, teaching, running team building programs, learned the styles in 94. But I'll tell you, once I got it, you know how to talk to people.
Yeah.
So I thought we'd go a little deeper here, and I think you already know the answer to this one, everybody. What style do people tend to communicate in? And the answer is their own
style.
Right. We communicate in our own style. And if we do that, we're not really communicating in the style of the person we're talking to. We're not connecting with them. And sometimes they don't even hear it. But I'll tell you, let's have a little fun with this. Let's go deeper. What I love about this next set is if you know the styles, you can tell what they're really saying. And the way they speak reveals who they are, but it also gives you a deeper sense of what are they really saying. So let's have some fun. So what I thought we'd call this what they said versus what they meant. All right. So we're going to test both of you.
Let's go.
Here we go.
My hands on the buzzer.
You meet a dove, and the dove says, "What do you think about Chinese food for dinner?" What are they really saying?
Let's go
Can
for
we get
Chinese food.
Chinese?
You bet. They are telling you,
I want Chinese
I
food.
want Chinese food for dinner. Can you imagine this whole conversation? The dove says, well, what do you think about Chinese? What they're really saying is, I'd really like that. And if you say, you know, what do you think about Italian? You know what the dove says? Okay, sounds good. And the whole way there, they're like, they picked Italian, knew I wanted Chinese, and they picked it anyway.
Yeah,
Like,
I've had this one. I've
how
had someone say to
inconsiderate.
me, "We always do what you want to do." I was like, "You always ask me to make the decision." No, they
And-
weren't always asking me to make the decision.
And there you have it. You see it playing out live. How about this one? Doves don't like to be critical or give any kind of negative feedback. When a dove says, that outfit is a new look for you, what are they saying?
Don't wear that again.
Do not wear it. I do not like it. Do not wear it.
Meanwhile, a parrot
Exactly.
is hearing, "Yeah, right. It's awesome." No, that's what a
Parrot's like,
parrot's
I
hearing.
know. I'm shooting for new and different. Nailed it.
Right.
Let's go to the eagle. All right, so you got some little eagle energy in there. How about, here's what I'm thinking. What are they really saying?
Do this.
Here's what I've decided. It's not what I'm thinking. It's, here's what we're doing.
Right.
How about this one for the eagle? The eagle walks by you and doesn't quite stop and they go, hey, how are you? Are they actually asking you a question? See, for the eagle, it's kind of like a here's what it is. It's kind of like a drive-by greeting, right? They're not actually asking. And if they start telling you what's going on in their world, they're like, wait, they're answering me? That wasn't a question. It's kind of a hello. Like, it's more like, how you doing? It's kind of like a, hey, I wasn't really asking. If a dove says, how are you doing? It's a question. They care. They want to hear, how are you doing? Right? But you can see there's a difference in how we speak. Let's try the parrot. Well, we had some excitement this week. Now, do parrots ever say, this was a disaster? This was horrible. This was bad? No.
Yeah.
Norman, as a parrot,
Yeah.
parrots
No.
don't speak in the negative. If a parrot speaks it has to say something negative, they take the positive and they negate it. For example, they might say, this is not good. They will never say this is bad. If they were not happy, they wouldn't say, yeah, I wasn't happy, or I was sad. They would say, I was not happy. They will always use the positive word. I had a parrot say to me recently, something just was a disaster. And she said, yeah, it was suboptimal. Suboptimal, right? It's always the positive word negated. I was talking to a dove or a parrot recently, and he was sick for a little while. I'm like, how you doing? He goes, I've been better, right? Notice there's no I was bad. It's the opposite. They use the positive word. They only speak in the positive, but they'll sometimes negate it.
This is word for word
owl.
how I answer questions. It's unbelievable. Word for word.
Right? Can you feel this?
You've been like
out
spying
there.
on me and listening to my cloud conversations. This is word for word how I would answer.
Right? You can see it in action. Now let's go to the owl. Very different.
Right, Joseph, I feel targeted. I do also.
Yes. So here's the thing. Owls, if they want to say something that is positive, they'll negate a negative word. Two negatives equal a positive. For the owl, it's how you doing? Yeah, I can't complain. How are you? Yeah, not bad. Server, here's where you'll see it. You're sitting in a restaurant. Server comes by to ask you how you're doing. You've just gotten your meal. You've taken a few bites. Server comes by to check in, turns to the parrot. How is it? Fantastic. Awesome. Turns to the owl. How is it? Fine. In other words, I don't have any complaints. Thanks for checking. Or so far, so good. In other words, no problems yet, but I haven't eaten the whole thing. I can't commit to it's awesome till I'm done.
Right.
So far,
yet.
so good. I said I had an idea recently and I shared it with an owl, and his response was, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. It's awesome.
That's like when my wife makes the food, like, and she's like, how is it? Like, I'm like, it's good. Like, I'm not.
I have a trip. I travel around the world. I've spoken in 47 states. I get to see the country, and I had an upcoming trip. I was speaking at an event in Oahu, so I'm going to Hawaii, And I was at a conference and somebody had come up to me and he was an owl and he had said, so where do you head next? And I said, oh, I'm actually looking forward to it. I get to go to Hawaii. I'm going to Oahu. I could tell he's an owl because he said, well, there are certainly less objectionable places you could go. How about that's awesome? So for the owl, they don't necessarily speak in the positive. They take the negative, negate it. You can see the difference. But those are your clues to reading people. You have a customer, potential customer, you're on a sales call, you're a leader trying to figure out your team, talking to a coworker. How do you figure them out? You start tuning into their language. You'll hear that doves, for example, say, how you doing? Oh, I feel good. I feel good. Notice the feeling word. Talk to an owl. I think we should do this. Thinking words for an owl. You can see the difference. In fact, if you read The Chameleon or you read Taking Flight, you'll notice that. Doves feel, owls think. You know, I had an editor once and she had said, you know, I want to use a stronger word for the dove. Like instead of suggested, how about directed? And I'm like, nope. Eagles direct, doves suggest. So you can feel it. If you read the books, you'll see it. Even in the subtlety of the verbs that are used, they'll match the style. So let's talk about reading people. I love this quote. Oh, one more. I forgot about this one. One more for the owl. If you're an owl, have we thought about the impact? You know what that means if you're an owl? I've thought about the impact. It's bad. They're not telling you. They're just suggesting. Have we considered this? Because they've considered it. All right, so let's do this. Let's go a little deeper and let's do a little bit of people reading. I love this notion that everyone's a book if you know how to read them. So I'm going to give you your secret decoder key on how do you figure out people's style. But here's the deal. You already know how to read people's style. So I'm going to share some famous people. I'm going to start off with Katy Perry in her hamburger dress and Kevin Hart. Let's throw it into the chat. So what style do you think Katy Perry, Kevin Hart are? What would you say? I think you know. And while they're typing them in, Jeffrey, Norman, what is your guess here? I have not shown this to you, so you do not. I've not preempted this. What would you say?
So easy.
Yeah, parrot.
Parrot.
Clearly, it is the parrot.
I mean,
right?
she's wearing a hamburger dress. Come on.
He's wearing a hamburger dress. You can't make that up. Let's go to our next one. Mother Teresa with Princess Diana and, of course, Mr. Rogers. What style do you think all of them are? What would you say? The parrots, I know that's related to our previous one. The answer for them, of course, the dove. And they all have that dove style. So let's keep it going. How about, all right, Bill Gates, Emma Watson. By the way, Emma Watson plays Hermione in Harry Potter, who shares her style. So what do you think? What style do you think? Bill Gates, Emma Watson, what would you say?
I don't know Emma Watson well at all, but I know Bill Gates is an owl.
You know he's an owl.
Yeah.
And by the way, there's this classic moment where the director, Christopher Columbus, was directing one of the movies, and he wanted to get a sense of Harry and Ron and Hermione. Here's the three main characters. And do they know their style? Do they know their character? And I want to see if they get it. So he turns to the three actors and he says, I want you to write a paper. And I want you to write a paper about your character. I want to see what you understand. And so we've got Daniel Radcliffe, who's an eagle, who plays Harry, who's an eagle, probably not a surprise in casting. And he writes a one-page paper. Hey, all right, I got my character. Emma Watson, who's an owl, writes an 18-page paper about Hermione. 18 pages. Rupert Grint, who plays Ron, who's a parrot, thought the director was kidding. Never did it. And there you go. Styles in action. Our last one. Let's do our last style. I know it's the only one left, but you can probably guess. Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator, the Governator, and Simone Biles doing things the greatest of all time in gymnastics that no one even will attempt. And she's like, I'm just doing it. Of course, what style do you think? That would, of course, be
The eagle.
Right, they're confident. Let's just do it. I'm going to make it happen. Very direct, very assertive, take charge. And notice how you already get it. I have a feeling you're tuning in, you're watching this. You immediately got it. You are already learning the styles and you're learning how to communicate to them because you know if you talk to an eagle, you have to speak to them differently than if you are talking to a parrot or dove or an owl. And I'll share one more thing before we open it up to Q&A. I thought it would be interesting to take a look at some of the books people have written. So I found a few kind of self-made millionaires and billionaires. And let's just look at the title of the books these folks have written. Remember, we said everyone is a book if you know how to read them? Well, here we go. Kevin O'Leary, he is the eagle. Notice what his title of his book? The Cold Hard. I mean, is there a better title? An eagle book title. Richard Branson, The Parrot. Screw it, let's do it. And my favorite word, by the way, in that title, let's. In other words, let's all do it. Like, not screw it, just do it. We're all doing it. And we're going to have fun doing it. Howard Schultz, the dove, I once heard him say, I wanted to create a company that my father never got to work at. And he talks about the third place, that place where you can feel at home and comfortable. And he talks about home and work and Starbucks. Look at that book title. Is there a more dove book title that you could come up with? Pour your heart into. I mean, that is as dove as you get. By the way, you can notice that the only two people that put their pictures on their books are the eagle and the parrot. Also, notice we're now moving into the owl business at the speed of thought. In other words, what is going to make us successful? Thinking. And he adds in using a digital nervous system. That sounds like a parrot. That is so far from a parrot title. And by the way, if you look at how big Howard Schultz's title, his name is so tiny. Kevin O'Leary, eagle, big and bold. Richard Branson, big and bold. By the way, Howard Schultz and Bill Gates, they sold a lot of copies. But you notice that the parrot puts on the cover, #1 international bestseller. So does the eagle, #1 national bestseller. The doves and the owls, they sold millions of copies. They don't have to put it on there. It's okay.
Right.
But you could see their styles. And here's one of the themes that I love from this too, is that people of all styles can have great success. Your style in no way determines how successful you will be, but it absolutely determines how you go about being successful. I would be willing to bet that Bill Gates and Richard Branson went about being successful very differently. Richard Branson, I can run an airline, I'll buy a plane. How hard can it be? Bill Gates creates this company called Microsoft, which was selling little mini micro programs, right? Of course, Kevin O'Leary, as you said, Lou, he's just calling it like it is. He's the eagle. You know, someone brings an idea he doesn't like, we're going to take it out back and shoot that idea behind the barn. Kill it. He doesn't care. You know, and poor Robert Herjavec on Shark Tank, who's the dove, is like, don't talk to them like that.
Right.
It's not nice. That's just not
Right.
nice.
Right.
So Jeffrey, I mean, you've been using the styles. Have you seen them play out in your world with your clients, with your staff? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, the three areas where it's just helped us, but me personally tremendously, is the self-awareness component. Because once you understand yourself, like when I first took my assessment, I was a little bummed out because I was like, I thought leaders are supposed to be like, you know, the eagle type and whatever, and I'm not that. And then like I just became to this realization point that it's completely not necessary. All you need to do is surround yourself with the people who can do the things that you can't do. So that was huge for us.
That's awesome.
And our company's grown a lot in the last, 5 years compared to the first 15 because of that. And you know, every time we hire someone, we give them an assessment so they could learn a little more about themselves, and we could communicate better with them and know how we interact with them. And then, like you said, when we're meeting with prospects, clients, you know, speaking in their language, as you call it, is huge. You don't want to lose your audience, and that's really what it's all about. And then becoming comfortable with the other styles as well is not the easiest thing in the world. Like me being, let's say, an owl dove and now going into parrot mode. I mean, I'm learning it over time and getting more comfortable with it as I do it more. But I think those three areas are where we've used it.
That's great. It's a skill set. The more you use it, the better you get at it. You get better at people reading. You get better at flexing. And I love what you said too. We have this paradigm that in the United States, leadership is the eagle style. That's not true at all. In fact, there was every few years, C-SPAN does this study, and they ask historians and presidential scholars to rank order the greatest presidents in U.S. history from best president down to absolute worst president. And every single time they run that survey, Abraham Lincoln is picked as the single greatest president, and he was a dove. I mean, and it's, we have this paradigm, but, the first 5 presidents, or the first 6 presidents in the United States were all owls. The 5 presidents leading up to the Civil War were all doves. Like, we have this paradigm, leadership is eagle, but actually anybody can be a great leader. Eagles can be great leaders, but so can parrots, doves, and owls. And that's true for any role. They can be great salespeople. They can be anything you want. They can do it, but they'll just do it in a different way. So let's pass it over to Norm here. And Norman, and questions. Do we have any questions from our folks tuning in?
Yeah, let's see some questions out there, folks. And while people are writing them down, Jeff, you touched on something that I think is so important about this, and the way it's helped me relate to everybody, which is understanding, once you realize what somebody is, understanding how to speak to them in their terms. Communication in this company has gotten so much better once we've understood that about each other. It's the reason this thing sits here. You walk into my office, you see I'm a parrot. You know how to talk to me right away. So it's been
Douglas is asking where we got the birds. So when we signed up for Merrick's program, we did like a little kind of like a lunch and learn where everyone took their assessments, and one of the things he does is he sends each employee their bird so they could leave it on their desk.
They come with our training programs. You can get them at Take Flight Learning as well. TakeFlightLearning.com. You can. We have a whole variety of bird products.
If anyone wants to join, Esther's putting a link in the chat, and you could ask live questions. It works in any browser. But go ahead, Norman.
So I understand that some of the books explain the styles. Do some of the books explain how to relate to those styles?
Oh yeah, that's the heart of them. I have 2 adult books. I've got 2 kid books on the right. That's exactly what it's about. It's not. I think this is the problem with the styles and how they're taught. That historically they were just taught it from this perspective of, let me teach you about the styles. Self-awareness is wonderful, and the most successful people are the most self-aware people. But it really needs to go to the next step, which is application. How do you use this? How do you communicate with an eagle? How do you work with a dove? How do you communicate with an owl, a parrot? I mean, that's the heart of what all these books are about. It's how do you use this every day in your life so that you're applying it, not just understanding the bird types. That's interesting. But if you don't use it, then it's not serving you. You have to be able to apply it every day. And that is what the books are about.
For sure.
You said you have kids books also now?
Yeah, it's funny. I found that when I go to conferences, I speak at events, if there is any one comment I hear more often than any other comment, it's, I wish I knew this before. And it gets filled in with comments like, I wish I knew this before I became a manager or a CEO. I wish I knew this before I got married. That's a favorite. I wish I knew this before I had kids. That's another big one. But what's at the heart of all of this is, I wish I knew this when I was younger. And so to me, it's time to teach it to children. And Norman, we were talking earlier, you could see this in children, can't you?
Yeah. One of my friends was talking to me just the other day. She has 2 kids, one's 6 and one is like 4 or something like that. And she was just feeling for one of her kids how he internalized everything. Like, he emotionally internalized everything, and everything emotionally affected him. And she kind of worried about him because he was so affected by just everything around him, and he took it all in, and he felt for everybody. And it was so obvious. I said to her, you know what you're raising there? You're raising a dove. She was like, I don't know what you're talking about. So I had to explain the whole thing to her. And once she saw that, she's like, yeah, that's exactly what this kid is. Yeah. Her other kid, she said, everybody wants to be his friend, and he doesn't even notice it. Doesn't even affect him. He just everybody wants to be his friend.
He's the parrot.
He's that guy.
Well,
Yeah.
It's the
well,
obvious parrot. I said,
Yeah.
you're raising an owl and a parrot.
Yeah,
You
it's
know.
incredible how once you know the styles, you can see them in action, even in
Hey.
kids. So
Okay,
Kim,
we
I
have
see
a couple of
you have a
questions here.
Kim, Kim, how you been? We worked together at Vigo's Jeans, like how many years ago? 10?
At least 10
How you
years
been?
ago. Good. I was actually typing out my question because I don't know, because I wasn't thinking about it. I just wanted to ask, because my background is sales and planning. Welcome to how weird of a career that is. Um,
Sounds
but,
like this.
but because of the way the birds are all set up in sales, you know that I think statistically about 60% of people are visual learners. So how do you turn the birds into a visual sales presentation?
Well, here's the thing. First of all, auditory, visual, kinesthetic don't necessarily relate to the birds. It's a different part of the brain. And I agree that people are visual learners. It's why I use birds, because they're visual instead of letters. Okay? For me, if you think about selling, the question is, okay, how do I sell all the styles? How do I bring this to life for them? And if you're talking to the parrot, make it visual, paint the picture, tell a story. Parrots are amazing storytellers. If they tell stories, it means they love to hear stories. So if you're the parrot selling a parrot, you've got to get into that storytelling mode because it gets them excited. If you're talking to the dove, you can paint the picture and be visual, but what if for the dove you talk about the emotional component? Like, we're going to be here for you. We know this is new. We know this is different. We know you haven't done this before. We're going to be there for you every step of the way. We're going to make sure you're comfortable. Can you hear how that speaks the language of the dove? For the eagle, it's not about that. It's, you want to paint the picture of, here's the results we're going to get for you. Here's going to be the impact of what we can do for you. If it's for the owl, it's, let me paint this picture of the process. Let me walk you through step by step. I'm going to show you exactly what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and why we are going to do it that way. And so for me, it's about painting the picture so they can see it, but you paint the picture from a style perspective. And when you do that, it triggers their hardwiring of who they are, and they hear you. So the power of speaking their language is that they hear you because they're wired to hear you if you're speaking in their style.
Yeah. No, yeah, that we just got a client recently. Esther knows Renee. Now in retrospect, I'm realizing she was a dove decision maker to some degree, and like we were like explaining her because switching IT, not everyone wants to do that. It's like, I mean, if you're a dove, you especially don't want to do it because you're entering into this land of the abyss where you don't know what's going to happen next. And you just want to know and feel comfortable that the transition is going to be safe and you're not going to have more stress and anxiety and you're not going to be worse off than you are from where you're coming from. And, I think we gave her some references, and the references were like, oh, they're the best people. We've been with them forever. And like, I think like it really like helped seal the deal. I don't know. In retrospect, I don't know, Esther, if you feel the same way.
Absolutely.
But
Well,
maybe
I'm
it was
happy
a
to go to our resident ornithologist who's an expert on birds. So what do you got?
So we have quite a few birds here in this mad birdhouse, and we have the most trouble with the eagles and the owls. And I'm just wondering any advice on how to deal with them. I don't know if you saw one of my.
don't know. He's an eagle.
So I'm gonna reframe your question. Instead of how to deal with them, what I'm gonna say it as is, how do we communicate them so that they're being a valuable contributor as opposed to maybe driving you crazy? So
I mean, listen to what this owl said about you, Merrick. You're distilling the complex human motivational archetypes.
Yes, distilling complex human motivation and nuances into avian representational archetypes. Yes, I am. And you know what happens is when you learn how to communicate to someone who's an eagle, they won't drive you crazy. In other words, you walk into an eagle's office and you start talking and you're sharing tons and tons of info and they cut you off. You know what? As opposed to looking at the eagle and saying, man, they just cut me off, what you should do is look to yourself and say, you know what? I need to be direct and get to the point. Be brief, be brilliant, be gone. And you know what? They won't bother me because I'm speaking to them the way they want me to speak to them.
I
Yeah,
know.
we
They
had a
really can't
owl,
collaborate, Merrick.
We
They
had a
can't
client.
collaborate.
We had a client that we were meeting with regularly, quarter after quarter after quarter. One time, the president of the company got on the call and he interrupted me right in the middle and he said, "How much is it?" And I immediately realized this guy's an eagle.
Yes.
Say what the problem is, say
He's
what
an eagle.
the solution is in terms of money, and that's it. Just run with it. I was like, okay, so
Right.
here's the problem. Here's what it's going to cost. Here's the problem. Here's what it's going to cost.
Love it.
He approved like 3 quotes in that one meeting. It was like,
Right,
okay.
but notice what you did. Instead of saying, "Oh my gosh, that client drives me crazy," say to yourself, "You know what? He's an eagle. I have to flex, be adaptable, be the chameleon, and I need to get to the point quickly." And so if you understand them and their needs get met, they won't drive you crazy, but rather you will value what they're contributing. And I will tell you, one of the things I've heard more than anything is once you know the styles, the drama melts away. And that is very powerful. So awesome. Joshua, do you have a question?
Hey, I'm actually I work with Douglas. I'm his human resources coordinator. Quick question. I know you were talking about, remember you showed the picture about a parrot culture at the workplace?
Yep.
So I'm the human resource coordinator at AFN. I've built a very parrot culture here. And everybody's not a parrot.
You're a parrot. Here's your camera, Josh.
I can't show it right now, but any tips on how to build a culture that kind of works for everybody? I understand using the style to communicate, but for one inclusive work culture, how to include all of the birds in that?
Great question. Love this.
I love that question. In fact, there's
Can I hire him or what?
right? There's so much talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And you know what? I think this is the heart. What is at the heart of DEI is this acceptance that we value people for who they are. We treat people based on what they need. We don't judge them. We accept them. You know what? If you want to have an inclusive culture that values everyone, you know what? When you have a meeting, start with the meeting and go bottom line. Here's our goal for the day. Here's what we're doing. When you're communicating, start with the bottom line. When you're talking to your doves, make sure you're communicating to them from a feeling perspective. How are you? How are you doing? I just want to check in with you. Have some events that are just for fun. Let the parrots feel engaged. For the owl, make sure they get enough information. They need the why. Don't just say, "Here's what I need you to do." Do it. It's treating each person, one person at a time, based on their needs. And you know what happens? Everyone feels valued, because when you treat people based on their needs, they will feel like you care about them as an individual. So instead of thinking about how do I globally create this culture, think about them one-on-one and think about how can I communicate to them so they get their needs met and they go home feeling engaged and satisfied. And look, that's why when we run these training programs, we run assessments, we run profiles, we run training. So often I think people think they're based on self-awareness. I think they're actually all about culture. They're all about how do you create a great environment for your people.
At the same time, sorry to interrupt, but the same token, like there's definitely like certain roles that align with certain behaviors, and should you like go against that, or just like a salesperson or a hunter, like clearly you need to be the or whatever you want to call it, parrot, eagle.
Right.
Should you consider going against that? Like how does that come into play?
First of all, there's an element of self-selection. I'm working with a team of accountants. How many parrots do you think are in that team? Probably not very many, because owls are drawn to that role. But I will give you an example. I was working with an accounting firm in Philadelphia, and they had one out of like 40 people in the firm. They had one parrot. Now, if they were looking for owls, they would have screened that person out during the hiring process. But that person found a niche, and the niche they found was, I love client presentations. Put me in front of the client and I will rock it. And every time they had to go in and do a presentation, they brought that person in. They made an awesome PowerPoint. They loved getting up in front of the client. They loved building the relationships, and they used that person incredibly well. So what happens is the person who is this one is different from everyone else, that's probably your innovator. Whichever style it is, they're going to think differently. So you're already going to get an element of self-selection towards a job, because most people are drawn to that job because of their style. But I wouldn't leave it as the sole determinant, because you could screen out very viable candidates who think differently and bring something else to the organization that others don't bring.
Cool. I saw
All right,
Irving on there for a
I think
second.
we are gonna. What'd you say?
Yeah. No, I saw. I'm this office that I'm at is Douglas Haddon's office at Josh. I rent a desk by them because COVID spoiled me, and I work close to home now. So
I'm a
like
borough
they
away.
got,
He's normally sitting next to me, and that's it. He left me.
so they're into they implemented this in their company in many different ways. So it's cool. No, so I thought Irving was from this company too, but maybe not.
That's awesome. Well,
All
yeah.
right,
Well,
so-
I appreciate you having me here. I mean,
Wait, before we wrap up,
Go
I
for it.
wanted to ask you just to mention that book about political personalities and stuff.
yeah.
You mentioned it before that we got on, and I found it very interesting, and just
We'll do a
people
little
should hear about it.
little show and tell. It's called Personality Wins, Who Will Take the White House and How We Know. Actually, I will tell you, you can actually predict who is going to win the presidency based solely on their style. I had a model that I thought, could we figure out who's going to win the presidency just based on their style? And the model played true for 22 elections in a row, all the way back to 1932. I just did a TED Talk on this, and so it's coming out in the next week or so. It's called "What If Presidential Elections Are One Big Personality Contest?" So if you want to tune into that, connect with me on LinkedIn, and I will be posting that within the next week or so. I understand it is being released.
All right, you just killed the whole polling industry.
That's right.
Just killed it entirely.
Congratulations, adding to the unemployment rate.
But I wonder, I guess you said the last 22, and I wonder if that's coincides with the advent of TV.
That is exactly correct. That is exactly what happened. That certain styles won from 1932 and on, and the exact opposite styles won from 1928.
Oh, okay.
So the model flipped at that moment, and it is all about media, where we learn about our candidates, we get to hear them or see them. Previously, we only read about them, and you might be able to guess which styles win today and which styles previously won elections. So it's fun. You can watch the TED Talk if you connect with me.
Okay,
All right,
awesome.
awesome. Thanks for
And then
your
as far
time,
as the
man.
other books go, there's Taking Flight. You're seeing it on the screen. The Chameleon you spoke about. Then I think we have the two children's ones, right? Which Bird Are You? And
Yep.
what's that one? Flight what?
And Flight School, that's a
School.
quick one. Which Bird Are You is a longer children's book, maybe for a
Yeah.
little older, 8 to 12. Flight School, a little bit younger. It's like one short story, and they all teach.
Wait, this is for adults to understand their kids or for kids to read?
No, these are for kids. Actually, kids can read Flight School. The kids could read Which Bird Are You? They're children's books. But I still think my hope is that adults read the kids the books, because I will tell you, adults will learn a lot from them as well. So hopefully adults are sharing in that fun with their children.
Okay.
All right,
Gotcha.
awesome.
All right. Thanks for coming on. This has been great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. Oh, we didn't mention our next one. What are our next